Hello.
Hi.
Firstly, apologies for the slightly delayed start to this. We are going to hit the ground running. We're going to wait 30 seconds and we're going to start all things nutrition. Now, what we will say is whenever we do nutrition videos, we could talk for hours, like literally hours. I could talk for hours. You can't shut me up. So we are going to put a strict time on this, that we're going to try and keep this to under 40 minutes, okay? If we find we're going to roll over the 40 minutes, we're going to stop the video, literally. We'll probably stop at like 30, 35 minutes, answer any questions you've got relating to what we've covered, and then we will look to do another live video covering nutrition either later on in the week or next Tuesday, okay? Because we know, we actually know that probably after 25 minutes, 20 minutes, a lot of yous will cut out, and we get that.
Yeah, and also I think like we had like an idea of where we were going with this today, and then that was this morning, so then I was like writing notes, and then as the day's gone on, we thought, oh, we'll talk about this as well. So now I've been writing my list down, and it's just getting longer and longer, so we might have to do part two, maybe part two be it tomorrow at some point, depending on where we get to today.
Yes, so the first thing what we want to talk about when it comes to nutrition, it makes sense to start at the beginning. And the reason why I want to start at the beginning with this is some of you this is going to be recapping, some of you it's just going to be refreshing your memory, some of you it's going to be completely new and you're going to think, I never thought about that. But when we often think about nutrition, everyone has their own perception of it. I know Ellie has a little activity that she wanted you to do, didn't you?
Oh, yes. So, yeah, well, good reminder, because I hadn't written that down. Right, the first thing we want you to do is, when I mention food, what's the first thought that comes to your mind?
Can you write it in the comments if you're confident doing it? We'd like that.
When I said to you food, like, what's the first thing that you think of? Like,
and everyone has their own. There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. We just want to try and gauge a little bit of thought.
I did it to Ryan earlier today.
Yeah, and mine, I would say. No, but I'm going to be honest. My response or thought is different based on my moods, and I think that's really important that we think about it. I know that, Nagar, because anytime someone puts something up nice looking on food, you're always like, what's this? And I'm always like, I was thinking the same.
Well, did you see what Francine made today, though?
No.
Oh, it's amazing.
What was it?
It was like this egg white thing. It was awesome. You have to go and have a look.
Yeah. So
it'll be funny, because actually I will say what Ryan said to me, and his first thought, if you're watching, I've asked you, what's your first initial thought when I say food? What's your first initial thought? Quickly, if you can, write in the comments, and then we're just going to sort of address it. I asked Ryan this today. Obviously, everyone knows we've both in the past had very unhealthy relationships with food, and so it was interesting to see Ryan's initial thought today was fuel. And then I was like, that was my first initial thought today as well, as fuel. And that's how like we literally is when we think about food, it's fuel for the body.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time when we look at, a lot of you when you join our program, for example, will join us with a goal of losing body fat, we'll say, often losing weight as well. We set calories. The first thing we'll get from 90% of yous, that's more calories than I can't lose weight in that amount, or that's a lot of calories, or something to do with how high the calories are. And we often say to you, and we'll always say this to you, our primary goal with every single one of you as clients is health. Yes, we can achieve the physical results in terms of weight loss. Yes, we can achieve the physical results in terms of toning up, changing body shape, things like that. But the primary result we have to do is do that from a position of optimal health. And only when we do that can we truly get those physical results in a lasting matter, which is why we want you to have the calories at a higher, safer point to nourish the body. And if we do that, it also is going to reduce the fact of us likely to slip off. Often when we find calories are much lower, you're less likely to continue that diet longer term. You're more likely to have binges if you're somebody who has them. You're more likely to just slip off the radar and completely stop tracking and then go off completely. So that's one of the main reasons why we want you to focus on hitting the calorie goal that we've set first and foremost.
Like the food that you eat, it isn't just important in terms of the physical. Like it isn't just the food that you eat that's going to help you lose weight or gain muscle. So if we can kind of like break that kind of relationship of you're just eating food because you want to look better, instead look at it as actually this is what's going to help my body do its job better. It's going to help me live a healthier life. It's going to give me the energy. It's going to help with my mood, stabilize my moods, help me sleep better.
Hormones.
Hormonally, give me that balance. And if you can kind of look at food in that perspective and break the relationship from it's just going to make me thinner or it's going to make me fatter or and this, then you're going to have such a much healthier view of food.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the time when we do this and we set the calories to a specific level, we are then just taking for granted the fact that, you know, I'm going to eat that and that's fine, I can do that. And then we lose track of how accurately we're actually tracking. And by that, I mean, like, you know, I have to admit, we have a bit of a laugh sometimes because we get used to filling the form and we added the question in. What was your average calories for the week? So like daily calories for the week. And we even tell you how to do it. So you add up all the calories you had that week and divide it by 7. And the numbers will put that in. And it's not within 10%, but we'll just say, yes, it was within 10%. Now, the reason why we have that 10% is because your calories that we set, they're specific to you, but they're always going to be an approximation because there's always going to be other variables. And if you're within 10%, even if you're within 10% and you're 10% over, we're content with that. But if you're 15% over, 20% over, reality is you're not going to be close enough to that, and that's going to possibly run the risk of turning you from that 10 to 15% deficit, which is what most users are probably into a surplus. And then it's the same the opposite way. If you're more than 10% under that calorie goal that we've set you, reality is you're going to find it very difficult to be nourishing your body in the most specific way in order for you to see the results that you want to see, both physically and emotionally. You know, we find the clients that are seeing the clients that aren't sticking to the nutrition side of it or struggle with the nutrition side of it a little bit more are the ones who will tend to struggle with other things a little bit more as well, because often they're not performing at the best that they could be.
And you might think, if I drop the calories really low, I'm going to see results quicker. That might start off at the start. You might lose the weight, but what will happen is longer term, you're going to feel rubbish. Your moods, you're going to become really hormonal. Your output's going to become really low in terms of, when I talk about output, it's just like, you probably might not even notice it, but it's like, you know, how quickly you walk, whether you're going to use the stairs or you're going to use a lift, whether you're going to be able to play with your children. These are all the things that are going to be impacted by you going on a too lower calorie diet. So it's, and also as well, is when you're not sticking to that 10% either below or over, it makes our job very difficult, because say then that you get to that plateau and you're not seeing the results that you want to see, your body's not changing, you're not losing the weight anymore, or you're not seeing the muscle definition that you really want. It's then hard for us because we can't then lower your calories any lower, because we would be wrong in our role as coaches to kind of make you to have a diet that's that's not nutritious at all, and it's not healthy at all. So we've set these numbers. We don't have to just pick a number out of the sky and think, right, today, Louise, you're going to have this, or Kiara, you're going to have this amount of calories. Like we've calculated your calories specifically.
With the network. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I've just put it on Wi-Fi. Ellie told me to turn it off, and I've put it back on. So we'll see what works. So what I was saying there, I just sort of bouncing off Ellie there.
About 14-year-old when you're...
So basically, women are genetically geared to hold body fat. So unfortunately, men, they're often testosterone driven. It's easier to lose body fat. Women, they start to diet down. Your body is naturally going to fight to hold on to body fat, because from the age of about 14, I know that's young, up to the age of about 40, 45, women will hold body fat because they're trying to sustain enough body fat to see them through pregnancy. That's the way the female body will work. So when you cut your calories really low, no matter how hard you try, your NEAT will decrease. It's like that's a fact. Like when we've covered this before when we were in prep, Ellie will literally want to do nothing. And that's why we talk so much about NEAT being active, because that's going to be so important for you if you are in a calorie deficit consistently. Those of you who are under eating quite a bit, you definitely need to increase the calories.
Especially
or
if
have
you're saying
diet
your
breaks.
energy's low, it's gonna be and if you're saying your energy's low and your calories, you're not hitting your calorie goal, there's a correlation there already.
Yes. What else have we talked about? Tracking. Okay. Being brutally honest, tracking, there's no point in tracking unless you're being accurate. You know, this is a thing where I've done this in the past myself, but you have to be 100% true to yourself and as accurate as you can be. We're not expecting you to, if you're going out, sit there with scales, but when you're at home, when you can control what you're eating, accuracy is really important. And we know sometimes it's not always going to be possible. You know, we're not super strict coaches in that respect, but the more accurate you are, the better.
We don't want to be a pain to your life, like we really don't. But one thing we take it very seriously when you say that you've got a goal and you tell us that the pain that you're feeling, the desperation that you want to look a certain way, feel a certain way. We will give you our best advice. We'll tell you what we personally do. We tell you how we believe to get the best results, and awareness is always going to be the first step towards that step of getting to your goals. And there's no other way to be aware than to be completely accurate. And sometimes with foods, we have to be able to be aware of our portions. And the scale weight, using this kitchen scales, is probably one of the most accurate ways to do that.
And it takes 2 seconds, literally, like 2 seconds to quickly weigh stuff. We've said this before, majority of things we'd always weigh cooked. The only things we tend to not weigh cooked is oats. That's the only thing I can think of that we'd weigh raw. But, you know, reality is you want to trying to get things weighed is the most accurate way. If you really can't weigh them, you want to try and make sure that you're cutting portion sizes accurately, or if you're out, you know, try and overestimate the calories in them. We saw, like, obviously the other day someone put in, I can't remember, it was put in a salad box and everyone was guessing like 400 or 500 calories, and it took me probably about a minute and a half to put it in, and it was about 700 odd calories. Now it might think, oh, do you know what, it's only 200 calories one day, but you do that every day for a week, there's 1,400 calories, and you think that over the course of a year, it might, you know, it soon adds up. So it's better to overguess. I might have been overguessing, you might have been underguessing. It's better to overguess than underguess when we get out.
And you can imagine, like, because a lot of time when we speak to people, like, everyone says, "Oh yeah, my diet's really healthy," and that's without even like properly being aware of what they're having. And it's only until like you put pen to paper or to MyFitnessPal and you see the actual numbers, and that's when you actually realise, can you actually now say that your diet's healthy? But if you've been honestly in your head and without tracking, you've been thinking, I've been eating really well, like Ryan said, I've been having these salads, been having these like sauces, nuts and things, but you've not really been measuring it out. It can get really frustrating when you're not seeing the progress, because then you want to jack it all in, because you're like, well, I've been eating healthy, it's not working. When really, essentially, you may have don't even realise that those healthy foods that you're eating, perhaps avocado, salmons, nuts, peanut butter, yes, they may be viewed as healthy food or healthy fats. If you're over your calories, the body is naturally going to hold on to the body fat. So we can't undo science, and science to the body, we work with calories. Calories is a unit of energy, it's numbers.
Yeah, and it's also looking at how we're cooking things. You know, like for us, we literally don't have oil in our house. We've got one cow spray. Yeah, Ellie's dad comes in because they're like, I think it's an older generation thing. They use a lot of oil when they're cooking and stuff like that. Which, you know, when we go around there, we'll do it, and we'll literally add in about 20 mils
gallons.
Of 5 tablespoons of oil when we put it in MyFitnessPal. But no, in all realness, you know, we use 1 cow spray, but we'll still track that. If I put 10 sprays in, I'm tracking that 10 sprays, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's all about cumulative. So it's about being consistent. And for me now, when I go in, I just put 1 in MyFitnessPal, and it'll come up underneath 1 cow spray. So it literally takes me less than a second.
And that's the beauty of MyFitnessPal. I think quite a lot of you anyway probably eat the same foods, and once you've input it once, it's going to be saved there anyway, so you don't have to keep searching for new foods unless you really are having that much variety where you are searching foods. And don't forget, you can scan barcodes. So I think sometimes people will put a barrier up to using MyFitnessPal before properly giving it a go.
We would tend to say 90% of stuff is better to do cooked. Definitely meats and stuff.
So it contains a lot of meat, contains water. So if you were to weigh it raw, you are potentially putting in that you would have, say, like 250 grams, when really it might just be 150, because that chicken breast would have been pumped full of water. So it's not that accurate. Whereas if you do it cooked, at least the water's come out. And then I guess the same, if you're constantly doing it the same way, then I guess you've got that accuracy. But I would definitely suggest doing it cooked, because at least then you know that if there was water added to it, the likelihood is the water's gone, and then you're stuck to literally just your protein in grams amount. Because if you were to include a heavy amount and it's full of water, you're not essentially going to get that amount of protein.
And it's just certain things, like the reason why we wouldn't track oats cooked is because when you can have different amounts of water to have different consistency of oats, but it's still got the same amount of raw oats. So that would be the reason. Whereas when you cook pasta and rice, the consistency doesn't change once you've cooked, because you take the water out, if that makes sense.
And I found on MyFitnessPal, if you were to use pasta, just do like the make of pasta, the brand of pasta, but then put like cooked, or scan the barcode, because sometimes I think there comes as different options, so just be wary. I would say like I don't eat pasta, so I don't really know, but
No.
I kind of say around like I can't even give you amount for pasta because I don't eat pasta. I can give you rice, that's from a microwavable packet.
Yeah, so again, as long as you're consistently doing the same thing, but we normally tend to say doing things cooked, just because weights do change and it's mad. Like we've done it before with chicken breast, and it depends on where you get your chicken breast from as well. We get ours now from a butcher's that's sort of like a wholesaler, and there's minimal water comes out, but it'd still be like 20-30 grams that you'll lose. So it makes a huge difference when 20-30 grams is 15-20%. So and we've got them from M&S before, which is supposed to be good, and they're even bigger. Use 30-35% of water. So just be aware of that sort of thing when you're doing it. You eat 55 grams of dry pasta. There you go. So there you go, Nagar. So everyone, as long as you're doing it consistently the same way, that's fine. And you don't track 1 cow spray. You don't have to. The reason why I say it's often helpful is it just gets into the habit of me. Everything that goes in my mouth, I track it. It's just good to be accurate.
It's like we even track seasonings. I think there's like
minimal calories. 4 calories. I think if you have a lot of it, but it's minimal. But I think it's sometimes a good habit to have, particularly if it's something you have often. So if you have 1 cow spray, it's not like it's going to take much effort to just type in a 1 and then it will literally come up underneath. You've typed the 1 in and you've just got to press another button to select that one. So that would be our advice. The more accurate you are with your tracking, the more it's going to benefit you, but it also helps us to help you, because sometimes, it's not, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes when people who are perhaps struggling with the results that they're seeing, and then when we say, okay, we'll send us your pie charts for the last 7 days, it's never a trick question. Oh, well, I've not tracked 2 days here, I've not tracked... And for us, it's so difficult to help them, because reality is, we all think we're eating relatively healthy, or most of us will probably think we're eating relatively healthy, but little things slip in when we're not, and that's one of the reasons why I would say tracking everything is just a good mindset to have. Do you know what? If it goes in my mouth, I'm tracking it. Even if it's like a black coffee, it's got no calories. I mean, you don't need to track that, but if you think in your head, I'm going to track it, it just gets you into good positive habits, and it doesn't take long. You can do it next time you have your meal. I've had 2 black coffees, put them in. Then you can also see how much coffee you're having and assess that based on if you're
And it's also great to kind of help habits as well, because unless you really kind of become aware of habits, you don't really know. It's like, for instance, Neve's starting to eat toast. It's so easy for us to form a habit to start eating high leftover toast, or when I make Eve May sandwiches, she doesn't have crusts at the minute, so easy to eat the crust. So now I have to weigh out a slice of bread to make sure I know like how much crust really weigh, because I'm eating it. So over the course of a year, you can imagine how much that's perhaps untracked bread that I'm eating. So
and we're never saying, notice that Ellie does eat it, so it's not, we're not saying bin it, we're just saying track it and be aware of it. And then sometimes you'll then start to make decisions, actually,
oh shit,
do you know what, do I really need that extra 50, 60, 70 calories a day?
I'm not even eating it because I'm hungry, I'm eating it because it's there. It's just because I've just cut it, so I just think, oh, I'll have that. So so I guess that's like, always be aware. And MyFitnessPal, I think, helps kind of sometimes break habits as well. And going on to that, I think we'll quickly just cover this one quickly, and that's planning in advance. I know I mentioned it on my post this morning, is I never understand why people don't use this tool often, is plan your day out in advance, especially Monday to Friday, because usually these days, especially if you're working in an office, or you have a day job that's perhaps similar, you have the same sort of shift pattern, same like lunch breaks and all that, you roughly know what sort of food you're going to be eating if you're taking your food, especially if you have the same breakfast and perhaps the same lunch. You can put that in your MyFitnessPal and track it, so then you know what the numbers are exactly, then you know what you have left, so then it makes it less likely that you're going to go over your calories, which then is going to help you to achieve your goals. Because oftentimes we see like you've eaten something and then you've tracked it after you've eaten, it's like, oh, I didn't realise I was going to be over today, and you can't undo what you've already eaten. So if you can put it in before you eat it, at least then you're going to know it's going to fit. Of course, if you have an off chance that you're going to go out for dinner, then that's a one-off situation. But day to day, I would definitely try and track in advance.
Yeah, and it's also other things, is like, if you have evening meals, is normally a meal that most people have with other people, so it might be a family or whatever. That could be where you would plan that in advance, and then you can adapt your breakfast and lunch based around that. So if do you know what, the family wants pasta tonight, pasta with chicken, but it's not going to be as much chicken as I'd like. So my carbs are going to be really high. My protein's probably going to be moderate to low. Okay, what I need to do then for my lunch is I'm going to actually reduce the amount of carbohydrates I'd normally have at lunch. So I might swap that bread out. I might switch that for a salad. I'll do that because then what I'm also going to do is increase the serving of my protein. So I'm not going to feel quite as hungry in the afternoon because I've reduced the carbs there. I'm probably going to feel hungry if I just have lettuce. I'll increase the serving of the protein, and then it means you've made that adaptation in advance that you can have that pasta and it's not throwing you out. And that's what we want you to start trying to do. And we know, we get it, sometimes plans change. We're not really strict coaches, but sometimes it's just almost having that little prep or plan in advance. That idea is going to make a huge difference to you because it means you're doing things from a position of control rather than doing it the opposite way around. And some of you who are on the more personal when we're checking MyFitnessPals and we go in and only half your day's inputted, like it's one of those things where I'm like, why would you not put it in as you're eating along? Because you can't change it once you've eaten it. But if you put it in advance, it's easy. Like we literally will go for our dinner and we'll adapt recipes. Sometimes like me and Ellie will have completely different different adaptations of the same recipe because we've got different macros there, and that's it. But we're still having the same meal, but it's just different ways we've tweaked it.
Meal 1 and meal 2 and possibly our snacks are very different. We have totally different taste buds, but then our evening meal we like to kind of be similar because obviously we've got E from A. So sometimes we're having to like adapt it, or I'm just changing whether it's a cheese, or Ryan might get to have carbs. I won't have to get carbs because I've totally had all my carbs and my snacks and things like that. So the great thing about planning is that things can be changed. They can be adapted on a go-to-go basis. And like Nagar said, like planning in advance, I actually get excited about planning my day because I think of different foods like I can have. Like, oh, do you know what? I fancy this. So tomorrow, do you know what? I'm going to put it in my fancy a cookie. I'm going to put it in tomorrow's food. And I'm gonna make myself like fit around this cookie. And then also have a positive relationship with food. You're not depriving yourself, and you can see that you can eat whatever you want within balance and moderation. You just sometimes got adapting. So it's a beauty of the winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So both worlds.
Yeah. So answering Carl's question, you'll create a recipe on MyFitnessPal. It's very simple to do.
I think I've done a tutorial on it.
Perfect. So you just go into recipe, add the ingredients in. Type number of servings it has and it calculates for you.
Done a tutorial.
It literally takes seconds. So Ellie will tag you in that, but that's the method we would say is the easiest way. If it's like a one-off and you very rarely do that, but if it's something that you cook quite often, it's definitely I would suggest doing it. But it doesn't take long anyway.
To use as well. Okay, so at the beginning of this live chat, we said when we mentioned the word food, what's your first? What do you think of first? And some of you were interactive. Now, my next sort of question is, when I mentioned food, what emotion do you get right now? And I think that's important, is sometimes to really think about like what emotions do you get when we talk about food, when you talk about your nutrition. Do you get an emotion? What's that emotion? Is it negative? Is it whatever? I don't want to say too much. I just would love to know if you're confident enough to write in this feed what your emotion is when I mention the word food. And there's no wrong answer.
Relaxation, like it. We'll wait around sort of 15-20 seconds. If all the rest of you are going to leave us hanging, why?
We can see you watching.
And like Ellie said, there's no right or wrong answer with that. It's for us. It's just we just want to gain an understanding into the mindset what you have. Everyone's going to be different. Pleasure, like it, really good. I'd say I'm very much along the pleasure or enjoyment side of it.
See, like I've been in the past where foods made me feel anxious, but that's because of the state that I was in at that time. So for me, I've shared obviously before, I've worked for many years working on my relationship with food to get to the point now where I think I've tried to cut off an emotion with my food. Like I try not to have an emotion connection with food, because I sometimes find that when you do have, and I'm not cold, like I obviously enjoy going out for meals and stuff like that, so I've got that side, but I've tried to cut off having an emotion with food, so then I don't use food to help with my emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's also something that I've been trying to work on, and I'm doing more so now. Again, I think prep, one of those things, can be very challenging, and it starts to highlight little things. So for me, that highlighted that although my relationship with food is a million times better, and it's actually better now than it's ever been post-show, it also highlighted things that when I'm feeling emotional, I would turn to food, because I had to almost thought it's the only time in prep where I felt challenged with the diet in terms of I could have cheated on the diet. I didn't, but there's a lot of things. So for me, I think it's important that we do become aware, and being self-aware is always the first key, first step, because then we can start to address it. So you've all put relatively positive emotions there, which is really good. And for us, we then want to also look at the way that we're looking when it comes to like time of the month, because we have to address the time of the month is one of those things that you're all going to go through every month, and it's difficult. It's also difficult for your other halves. They have to put up as well. I'm joking, but no. When it comes to time of the month, everyone's gonna experience things very differently when it comes to food side of things. But reality is, a lot of you are gonna crave the wrong types of food. And when we start to crave the wrong types of food, we need to ask ourselves what nutrients is in those foods, because a lot of the time they're your body sending signs or signals into what you possibly need, but you don't need the junk version of it. So by that, I mean, if you're constantly craving foods that are higher in fats, we would probably be suggesting to you probably need to go and get your fatty acids in. So go for oily fishes, go for fortified with omega-3 things, make sure you have an omega-3 supplement, because they're going to help aid you. The body is very clever, but what you don't need to do is pick on chocolate and sweets, because it's not productive. What that actually is going to do is be counterproductive, because you'll have them one day.
Elevate.
Yeah, your sugar levels will be elevated. The following day, you're going to wake up. You're going to probably feel like you've got a horrible breath. You're probably going to be very thirsty. You're going to feel lethargic, and then you're going to want those sugary foods again. And that can start a vicious cycle that can happen every month. And if you have a 4-day cycle, that's over 10% of your month, nearly 20% of your month. So you don't want to eat into that by doing that.
And also, we always say, like, you know, like having like chocolate, you crave the chocolate on time of month. Like, you know, I think we've all used that sort of saying, like, a time of month I'm craving chocolate. And it's like Ryan said, essentially, like, is your body actually craving chocolate? Are you telling yourself that you want chocolate? Is your body perhaps saying you, look, my blood sugar levels have dropped, I need something that's going to help my blood sugar levels? Now, from speaking from like reading textbook and looking at the science, having something that's again going to spike your blood sugar levels is not going to be the best thing, because what happens is you're going to spike up, you're going to elevate it, and what comes down with that is that you come crash. So you hit a crash, and then you're then going to keep thinking, oh, okay, I need another pick-me-up, so I'm going to have some more chocolate, I'm going to have some more sweets. So you're literally going to go like this. But then also, your moods are going to go like this, and your hormones are going to go like this, and so that's why then you think, like, during your time in the month, you feel so erratic, and your moods are kind of a bit out of control. You feel weepy, you feel hormonal, you perhaps want to cry, you want to feel moody, you feel shouting. But also because what you're feeding is not helping your body in terms of the science behind it, your blood sugar levels, the stress levels, and your insulin levels, if I mentioned that, and things like that. So really, if you're feeling like you're actually needing a pick-me-up, have a nutrient-dense meal. So perhaps even if you need to increase your carbohydrates for a typical meal, say you normally have like one sandwich, have 2 sandwiches, but like fill it up with some greens, some good sources of protein, and see if that's going to happen, because likelihood is it's going to satisfy you, but it's also going to stabilize your blood sugar levels for longer, so you're not going to go like this, and that's also going to help possibly reduce your symptoms of your cycle.
Yeah, and I think that's covered everything there. But in a nutshell as well, it's also, if you're constantly hungry in your cycle, communicate with us.
Yeah,
okay?
talk to us.
Because, you know, women can burn a little bit more calories during that time of the month. So what we would also do is possibly for some of you, we'd increase your calories at the time of the month, address how that makes you feel, because what we don't want to do is fall into a temptation of possibly having a binge, or we don't want to fall into the temptation of slipping off where you pick the junk food. And when we say, like, you know, if you feel like you're craving a chocolate bar, don't have a chocolate bar. We're not saying completely deprive yourself from chocolate bar altogether. You should be having a chocolate bar whenever you want one, but in balance and moderation. So what we're saying is, if you find you're going to have it purely because you think it's time of the month, you're craving it, that's when it's a different thing. If you're having one because you genuinely want one, because you want to have a chocolate bar, if it's fitting your calories, we're happy. Yeah. But we don't want it to be because it's time of the month.
And also, and on that note, if perhaps you have been saying this, like, you're not seeing the progress that you want, and then also it's a recurring trend saying when it's time of month, I'm craving chocolate, I've gone over my calories because I've had chocolate, because I've had my period, but this is happening every single month, and you're going in the opposite direction of your goals, that's when we really need to have address it, because then it gets to a point, is it really a craving, or is there perhaps an underlying issue? Why are we kind of, whether it's the planning, whether it's your food choices, or something perhaps that's not quite right, that's making you want to kind of keep going for the chocolate during this time of the month. I think perhaps you need to look at your choice that you're having day to day. Do you need to perhaps increase your calories so you're getting, like Ryan said, more nutrient-dense foods, will increase your calories for the 4 days, but those extra calories will go from nutritious foods, so then you're less likely to binge so much, and then we can still keep in line with your goals.
And it's also little things like assessing the training and stuff, which we have talked about in the other one, but sometimes being aware you might need to lighten your training a little bit that week. You have to listen to the body. And for us, I mean, we want to talk mostly about the nutrition, but you go back and watch that, because, you know, women lift lighter that time of the month. You should be lifting lighter. It's not normal to be hitting PBs at the time of the month. So you just becoming more aware, because otherwise you're going to run yourself down even further. And the last thing you want to do is feel even more tired when it's time of the month.
Okay, I have 2 more topics to discuss. So I don't know if we have time for one more.
Yes, let's do it. We've got 5 to 10 minutes. Apologies for this evening being a bit overrun. We did say at the start we could talk all night about this.
Okay, so if you're watching, you are interactive. I can say the 2 topics that we've got, and you can make a choice quickly. It's saving calories.
I think we can cover them both if we're quick. Cut me 5 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes on each one.
Okay, so saving calories. We see this question come up about whether you can save calories. Say, for instance, you've got a hectic weekend coming up, and you know you're going to go mad for it, and it's a one-off weekend where you've got perhaps family or friends coming over, and you say to us, Ryan, Ellie, can I perhaps save some calories and enjoy them for the weekend? As a one-off, yes. Yeah?
Yeah.
We would say, yes, why not as a one-off? But with that, we have to then make you aware of possibly how you will feel the following week, and as long as you're aware of that, then go for it.
Yeah, and I think for us, like, we always talk about promoting healthy relationships, and the reason why we prefer you didn't do that is because we want to aim for consistency and lifestyle. So for us, it's never a positive thing to deprive yourself and overindulge. It's never going to promote a healthy relationship at all. But what it will do is damage limitation. And it's about getting that balance right between what's going to be more important to you. And if you're somebody who has a very reactive thought to the number on the scales, we would be telling you, yes, possibly save the calories for the weekend and go mad for it. Don't stress about it. You probably won't do any harm. If you're somebody who has a longer term approach and you're looking more over the holistic lifestyle approach, we'd probably say, do you know what? Continue with your calories as normal. If you overeat by a few hundred calories each day that week, even if you're in a calorie maintenance over the course of that week, it won't impact your results much at all. It might mean, rather than losing that pound, you're going to stay the same, but that's going to mean it's a more positive relationship longer term.
And the likelihood is that weight that you're going to gain at the weekend, we'll probably get it off, as long as we get back to normal routine by the following week, we'll get it off perhaps late towards the end of the week. So like for me, when I used to like have my alcohol on Saturday, my pizza on Saturday, my sweets on Saturday, I would gain the weight Sunday, Monday. By the Wednesday is when I'll get back down to my normal scale weight. Might not have lost any, but I'll get down to perhaps the weight that was before. So it's just being open-minded and being aware and just knowing the facts.
Yeah, and if you are, we've talked about this to a couple of you more so recently about the weight, is if you're somebody who doesn't allow the weight to affect your mind, you can weigh every day and become more self-aware. Like we're 100% comfortable with yous as long as you're happy and you're not going to allow the weight to determine your moods. If you want to weigh yourself, the reason why we would say it's not a bad thing is it's going to improve your knowledge of your body and how it works. Everybody is different. If I go out on a night out, I'm lighter the next day. The reason I'm lighter the next day is because I like spirits and diet drinks. I don't drink any other drink really, so I'll be lighter the next day because I'm dehydrated, but then the following day I've put on 2 or 3 pounds. So I'm aware of that because I track my weight, but it doesn't bother me. I can put 6 pounds on it. It won't affect me mentally. I just know, right, I need to be a little bit tighter or whatever, so it's about being more aware of you.
And like we said, with the whole sort of saving calories, we wouldn't suggest you doing it every week, because it's never been anything how we preach. But we also appreciate perhaps everyone's different. If you have a big event and that's what you'd want to do, then we would happily support that. But we would rather kind of help you with that it's not something that we would recommend. But again, we're always open-minded, but it's also looking into the facts behind it. So yeah, that was we just wanted to cover it just to make sure that, because sometimes we have questions about that.
Yeah, I think we've sort of spoke to you a little bit before, Kiara. I think for you, what we need to do is maybe address how you view food, and it's getting that balance between the enjoyment of the food, but also being aware of what food is for. You know, as mad as it sounds, like we need to look at food as a tool to nourish our body, and when we view it as that, we remove the emotional connection, like Ellie's spoken about, and like I've still not completely removed my emotional connection, so I'd be lying to you if I said I had. However, it's a lot better now, and when we start to remove that, we can actually say, do you know what, like food, yeah, it can bring me enjoyment, but it can also bring me misery if I don't do it right. So what I need to do is say, this is going to nourish my body, and if it's not congruent with my goals, I don't need it.
And do you know what I've been saying to Ryan as well is recently, like we took the kids out on Sunday, we went to Pizza Express, and the Pizza Express meal wasn't in line with my goals where I was going for my holiday. So I kind of made adaptations to my normal choice of what to go for pizza. And Ryan was like, are you sure you want to do that? And I just said, Pizza Express is always going to be around. It's like I can go to Pizza Express in a month's time, 2 months' time. I can go every week, after the holiday and have whatever I want. But going away in 3 weeks' time and knowing that I'm happy with what I want to achieve, I reached my goal I wanted, that's not always going to be around. I've got 3 weeks to get to there. So, I can make these choices because, like, chocolate's always going to be here. Food's always going to be here. Pizza's always going to be here. They're all going to be here. We'd much rather work on your relationship and how you view the food. That's the priority. Like, it's not that go hell for leather. It's being able to kind of being in control when you're eating. So it's important. That's why we always want to come back to the emotion that you're feeling. That's why when we talk about, when some of you talks about having binges, it's about, we really ask you, was it really a binge? Did you feel in control? Did you want to eat it? And things like that, because we want to make sure, like, where you are in the process of when you are choosing your food, and sometimes taking a step back and kind of really being aware of it too. And just turn the light on to put
and the big thing that can help with that again is putting things in advance. And we always say, like, I've had since we started a flexible diet, and I don't think that's improved it much, but anyway, since we started a flexible diet, I've had various times where I've overeaten, I've binged, and I track them, and I could eat like a stupid amount, like far beyond most what you would have had, and it can be very unhealthy. But when you're aware of it, then I now have that reminder in my head, do you know what, I don't need to eat that 6,000-7,000 calories, I don't need that. And when you start to remind yourself of how you felt after that happened, and it does take time, but you then start to remind yourself, we can then limit them. We'll limit the binges. But for us right now, it's all about focusing on the positive relationships with food. We want it to be enjoyed, not endured. And we also want you to be making knowledge-based decisions rather than emotion-based. And there's a huge difference between those. As soon as emotions are involved, knowledge goes out the window. If we keep that knowledge in the forefront of our mind every single time, because most of you know how to eat, even when you join us, we're just helping you with a little bit more structure with it, but you just have a basic idea. So we just want to try and keep that in the forefront of your mind. Is it congruent with my goals? I know that isn't. Do I need to eat it then? And sometimes you might literally look at it and say, do you know what? I don't need to eat it, but I want it. And I'm out with my friends, and I'm not going to be out with my friends for a while, and you'll eat it.
Yeah.
And you do that, and you've not done that emotionally. You've done that on a knowledge-based decision, at the fact that this isn't going to happen for a while again. You don't want to miss that opportunity. There's no guilt to be involved then. You should enjoy that.
Yeah, but it's when you start to feel guilty, that's when we need to address the situation that you're in, how you felt, the reasons why you did things, and so forth. So as long as you don't feel the guilt, then you move on. Okay,
last bit now. Last one. We're going to keep this to 4 minutes, okay? Because Love Island's on soon as well. Is anyone watching Love Island? Anyway, holiday expectations. We even synchronised that. So, you want to start?
Yeah, so what we mean by this is,
we talked about this, was it last week as well? Not just with nutrition, but in terms of results. Was it last week before, about the expectations meeting your?
I can't remember what I did yesterday.
We did a video. If you've not watched it, talk about your expectations meet what you're willing to do to achieve them, and it's very similar to what we're going to talk about now in line with nutrition. So this is taking into consideration. It's just we appreciate it's the summer. You're perhaps going to be socialising a lot more later nights. It's so easy to... Everything involves food and drink, doesn't it? When you socialise, realistically, everywhere you go, you can't even go you can't go anywhere.
Every time we sit out in the garden.
Someone's putting a plate of nuts right in front of me, or they're putting a plate of crisps, and it always gets put in front of me, and then they find their way in their mouth. Anyway.
So we kind of just wanted to address it because this July, August is the hardest months we would say of the year when it comes to goals. Is that right? Yeah.
I would say so. I think this month is possibly harder than December.
Yes.
I'm going out on a limb here. And the reason why I think that is because December, a lot of people will want to try and think about that Christmas dress. They want to be in like not too bad for Christmas, so they don't want to overdo it, and it will just be 1 week. This summers tend to be like there's things going on, there's bits going on.
The weather's been so great. Obviously we've had a great summer so far. Obviously we've had Wimbledon, cricket if you watch cricket.
I don't know. I've not had any of these lot mention Wimbledon or cricket. I didn't even know what's going on in them.
It's more reasons to
cricket.
kind of enjoy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like alcohol, any excuse, we'll go for it.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's sometimes just being aware, and again, it's using them monthly goal forms, looking at where you're at, and saying, actually, over the next month, I've got so many social occasions on right now. I don't think what I was wanting is realistic, so I'm going to move my goal in a little bit and make it realistic based upon the month I have coming up. And when you do that, it means you're going to end the month of July and do the same in August in a matter of feeling like content with the fact that you'd already planned for what was going on. So you haven't beat yourself up when you perhaps hop on those scales and the weight stayed the same. Even you put a pound or two on, you've got a positive attitude, a positive relationship with it, because actually, do you know what? I enjoyed my month. I made memories, I went to social occasions and enjoyed myself, and I also probably noticed that someone who was really strict with their diet and being miserable because they weren't involved because they were being too strict. You don't want to be that person.
Like, we would rather you message us or fill in that the holiday form, the monthly check-in, and be like, Ryan, Ellie, I'm going to be honest with you, August is going to be a crazy month for me. I've got 5 birthday parties, I've got a holiday, I've got a barbecue. I've not seen these people. I want to like kind of have fun. I want to not stress about blah, 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 blah. So this is my plans, and we'll go, okay, that's fine. We won't be on your case. But we want you to use us 1st of September because we're going to be honest with you. It might take a little bit while getting into it, but use us. This is what we're here for. We'll get you back on track. We'll do this. Perhaps just be mindful and things like that. Be sensible, and like that's what we'll just be honest with you. But we'd also be honest with you. Okay, that's fine. Just do not weigh yourself, or don't get hung up on the scales.
Yeah. Is it worth tracking actual body weight throughout the summer then? What do you mean by is it worth it? I mean, it's something, again, like I said, it depends on you and your mindset. I don't think you have an unhealthy relationship with the scales. So if you want to track it, I would track it. Just don't let it determine how you're feeling. So if you find that you're weighing yourself and you've put on a few pounds or lost a few pounds and you're not happy with what you see, don't allow that to affect your mindset, the decisions you're making, the level of activity you're doing, the workouts that you're doing. What I would probably say, if you think it might do that, then don't hop on the scales. You don't need to worry about your weight, I would say. If I'm honest, Francesca, you're already, your weight isn't a main focus. It's more about shape. So I wouldn't say you need to weigh yourself unless you specifically wanted to. I would probably say you don't have to. But
and also, it's kind of remembering like body weight or whatever is a byproduct of the lifestyle that we're currently living. So for whatever reason, the numbers change, and you look back and you think of like, you've been perhaps socialising or so forth, what the activities dropped. As long as you can, if you are going to weigh yourself and be like, I knew this was going to happen anyway. So it's a kind of knowing your expectations. We're just pre-warning you and also letting you become aware, because also it's going to help your relationship with yourself, with scales, and knowing that you can go out and have fun, but it's just about being prepared and being aware that actually the body you might not reach your goal that you already set yourself. So just be realistic with the goals or what you're expecting of yourself.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, I mean, we never want pressure anybody to weigh themselves. For us, like, weight is irrelevant, even those who want to lose weight. It's something that you can either monitor or not. It doesn't make much difference in terms of that. Sometimes, if you'd like to learn more about how your bodies respond to things, you can do it. If you're not too fussed, you're just quite happy, like, I don't think you need to worry too much about that. The other thing is about the holiday expectations is also, like, if you have a social event on, I would go out on a limb and say 80% of the people who go backwards after social events, it's not the actual event. It's the day after and the decisions we make. So we cover this whenever we talk about holidays, whenever we talk about like social events, is we have a night out, we've had a few too many to drink, we've probably eaten a little bit over our calories, but then it's the following day when we wake up, we feel like rough, we make poor decisions. So my honest answer would be to not allow the way that you're feeling to impact the decisions you make. What we would probably be saying is hammer the water straight away, as always.
Use your knowledge.
Yes, use your knowledge. And get out, get fresh air straight away. I'd probably do those before you even eat anything. And then try and get a good source of carbohydrates for breakfast. And then straight after that, you want to get back hammering your protein and get greens in you. That's what our advice should be. And it's the best hangover cure you'll get. It's the fresh air. That's what you want. You do need carbs because your blood sugar levels will drop. So have them, but make sure they're still going to fit your calories. And then you have a high protein meal next, ideally with loads of greens.
The thing is, it's also like when this does happen, it's like, when do you stop? It's like, because you feed
Yes, I'm like that. I know. I am very much. I have one bad day, I could have a whole bad week.
You feed your hangover because you tell yourself this is what you need, because you feel so rough that it's gonna make you feel better. But then what happens then the next day, come Monday morning, you got Monday blues because you're going back to work or whatever. But then also you then feel shit because you've eaten like shit. You can't expect your body to be feeling the best it's ever going to.
He is like Sergeant Major, by the way.
Yourself shit.
Can we just ask these ladies as well, yeah? After a night out, Ellie will go back and have dry toast. After a night out.
I don't eat dry toast, I have butter on it. But margarine
on the toast after a night out instead of cheesy chips. And we have covered this.
And a cup of tea.
Yeah, but it always comes into my head when they start talking about nights out, because I like toast after night out. And I don't think you've ever let me get cheesy chips after a night out, have you, in 6 years? Anyway, yeah, so I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover. Anyone got any questions? Apologies that it's been a lot longer than what we expect. Like we said at the start, we can talk about nutrition. It's something that we've noticed. And these are just general trends, by the way, that we notice in the group. And that's why I wanted to cover this tonight, because we know some users find it a little bit more difficult with social. We get that. Some users find it a little bit more difficult in terms of getting the balance right. We sort of touched it. We didn't touch it as much as we were going to. What I would say about getting that balance right is protein for breakfast, please. Yeah. Schoolgirl error from all of you if you're not having protein for breakfast. And I mean, a lot of you who are posting in the group are relatively good, but some of you, when we're asking you, what do you have, like, some of you are a bit quiet, and we might ask, there's not enough protein for breakfast.
I think like a simple way to, I think I've said this a couple of times in perhaps the emails from check-in forms, is when you're doing your food, imagine you got your plate. I'm just drawing a picture of a plate. Okay, the first thing you want to put on
looking down and no one can see it anyway.
But that's my plate. Not that I can't draw it like proper drawing it. So the first thing is like what takes up the bulk of your plate is going to be your protein. So always think, is there a protein source, whether it's meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, or if you have 4 meals, whatever, is there a protein source there? Yes or no? Then is there some colour? Yes or no? And then if you're having whatever you're having, if you're going to have some carbs, then have the carbs. But honestly, that's how I'll be looking at my plate. Ask yourself, is there a protein source there? Let's try and make sure that we're having protein at every meal. At least 25 grams is an ideal amount of protein at each meal. That'll be a great starting base.
Snack, yeah.
Yes, and then when you
snacks are the same. You find a lot of times snacks is where people fall down, where they're high carbohydrate snacks, very low protein. So even for people who are opting for some of the protein bars, or they're labeled protein bars and they've got 8 grams of protein, that's not a protein bar, it's just carbs. There's 4 grams of protein in a Snickers. So you've had a little bit more than the Snickers.
And also, like, there's a lot of protein bars, actually, their fats are higher than the protein bars. And it's not really going to sell if they call it a fat bar. So they think, okay, what's a great way to sell now? And everyone's gone crazy for protein products, but really looking at the info, it's very misleading. So to just become aware, it's like that pancake that I put up this morning, that had 50 grams of protein in my meal 1 today.
So it would hit a third of most of your protein goals in one meal, and we know that not everyone can cook that, but a lot of that you could almost have in a shake. You could literally have that in a shake. You probably just swap the egg white for casein. Doesn't change the macros much, and if you were on the move and you couldn't cook, you could do that. So it's easily done. Add some oats into it as well if you wanted to have a little bit more carbs, depending on how you like to sort of time your nutrition.
That's actually how I used to start my day when I used to work.
Yes.
I mean, I'm working now, but
When you used to PT.
when I used to PT, obviously.
Bless her, it's been a long day. Right, on that note, we're going to leave you. Thanks a lot, ladies, who've been interactive. We absolutely love it when you're interactive. It helps us to keep the conversation flowing. And if you think of any questions, let us know. Those of you who are still about, thank you. And can you just comment on it, how it was used, Philip, that if you took a major point
really
away, what it does is it just helps the other ladies that perhaps can't make a Tuesday night see, oh, actually, it's not just Ryan and Ellie talking crap for an hour. There is actually a little bit of value in there. So, and also, once again, apologies, we're a little bit late today as well. Okay, is that everything? Yeah. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Oh, by the way, one more thing, one more thing, unless Ellie's was different to mine. We have got challenges coming up. We're gonna cover. We're gonna talk about those in the next. Probably tomorrow morning, we'll announce what we're going to do next week for a challenge, so that everyone's got loads of notice.
That's following on that we know that this is the hardest time. And
yes.
So we decided that we're doing challenges, so we're going to push your ass.
We're up on our game.
And also, I was going to say was, if we've missed anything related to nutrition that you would like us to discuss, comment below and we will cover it.
Thanks, Jan.
Again soon.
Yes. We should do like an all-nighter one night. Team Hodgson all night, and we'll just talk about all things like nutrition, mindset, lifestyle. Anyway, all right, enjoy the rest of your evening. See you later. It's been a long day.